Title: The Haunting of Dakshin. In the heart of a desolate, forgotten corner of the world, there lay a town named Dakshin. Nestled between jagged hills and obscured by dense forests, it existed as an enigma, a place where time seemed to stand still, and the echoes of its past whispered haunting secrets. Dakshin had always been a town with a dark history, a history that the townsfolk spoke of in hushed tones. Legends of malevolent spirits, cursed lands, and restless souls shrouded the town like an impenetrable mist. For those who knew of its sinister reputation, Dakshin was a place to be avoided at all costs. It was in this eerie town that a man named John arrived one autumn evening, his footsteps echoing in the silence that enveloped Dakshin. He was a wanderer, a man haunted by a past he could not escape. His face bore the scars of a life filled with regrets, and his weary eyes held secrets he dared not speak of. John had been on a journey to escape the darkness that had consumed him. He had hoped that by leaving his old life behind, he could find solace and redemption in the quiet solitude of Dakshin. Little did he know that the town held a darkness far deeper than any he had ever encountered. As John settled into a modest cottage on the outskirts of Dakshin, the townsfolk watched him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. They knew that newcomers often brought change, and change was something Dakshin had grown to fear. The town had been bound by an unspoken pact, an agreement to let the past remain buried, and the spirits that haunted it undisturbed. The nights in Dakshin were long and moonless, and the air was thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. It was on one such night that John first felt the presence, an insidious, lurking force that seemed to seep into his very being. It began as a whisper in the dark corners of his mind, a whisper that grew louder with each passing night. At first, John dismissed the voices as figments of his imagination, the remnants of his troubled past haunting him. But as the days turned into weeks, the whispers grew more distinct, more sinister. They spoke of ancient rituals and long-forgotten incantations, of a darkness that had lain dormant in Dakshin for centuries. John's nights became restless, plagued by nightmares of shadowy figures and ghostly apparitions. He would wake in a cold sweat, his heart pounding in his chest, only to find the eerie silence of Dakshin enveloping him once more. The townsfolk, sensing that something was amiss, began to distance themselves from the newcomer, their fear growing with each passing day. In a desperate attempt to find answers, John sought the counsel of an elderly woman named Eliza, the town's unofficial historian and keeper of its darkest secrets. Eliza, with her gnarled fingers and ancient wisdom, had known of Dakshin's curse for generations. She had seen countless newcomers fall victim to the malevolent forces that lurked within the town's shadowy past. Eliza listened as John recounted his experiences, her eyes clouded with concern. She knew that he had unwittingly become the vessel for an evil spirit, one that had been bound to Dakshin for centuries. The town's dark history had been forged in blood and darkness, and it demanded a sacrifice to appease the malevolent forces that held sway. With a heavy heart, Eliza revealed the truth to John, a truth that sent shivers down his spine. He had become possessed by the very spirit that had haunted Dakshin for generations, a spirit known as Malachi, a name that invoked dread in the hearts of all who heard it. Malachi was a vengeful entity, a soul bound to the town through an ancient curse. He had once been a powerful sorcerer who had sought immortality through dark magic. In his pursuit of power, he had made a pact with a malevolent force that had cost him his soul. In return for his immortality, he had been condemned to serve as the guardian of Dakshin, feeding on the fear and suffering of its residents. Eliza explained that the only way to free John from Malachi's grip was to break the curse that bound the spirit to Dakshin. It was a perilous undertaking, one that had been attempted by countless generations before, but had always ended in failure. The curse demanded a price, a blood sacrifice to appease the malevolent forces that held Dakshin in their thrall. John, driven by a newfound determination, resolved to confront Malachi and break the curse that had ensnared him. Eliza, with her knowledge of ancient rituals and protective spells, guided him in his quest. They gathered a group of townsfolk who were willing to face the darkness that had consumed Dakshin for so long. As the night of the ritual approached, a sense of foreboding settled over Dakshin. The townsfolk knew that they were treading on dangerous ground, and the very air seemed to crackle with tension. John, prepared to confront the malevolent spirit that had possessed him, felt the weight of the town's dark history pressing down upon him. The night of the ritual arrived, and Dakshin was shrouded in an impenetrable darkness. The townsfolk gathered in a circle around an ancient stone altar hidden deep within the forest. Eliza, with her weathered hands, began to chant incantations that invoked the protective spirits of the land. As the ritual unfolded, the forest seemed to come alive with eerie sounds, the rustling of leaves, the cawing of distant crows, and the whispering of the wind. John, standing at the center of the circle, could feel the malevolent presence of Malachi growing stronger with each passing moment. The ritual reached its climax, and Eliza summoned all her knowledge and power to break the curse that bound Dakshin to Malachi. The ancient forces that had held the town in their grip for centuries resisted with a furious intensity. Shadows danced around the circle, and the very ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble. In a moment of blinding clarity, John realized the truth: he was the sacrifice that the curse demanded. His heart sank as he understood that the only way to free Dakshin was to offer himself as the ultimate sacrifice. With a heavy heart and tears in his eyes, John stepped forward and spoke the words that would seal his fate. The ground beneath him quivered, and a blinding light enveloped him as he offered himself to the malevolent forces that had plagued Dakshin for generations. The townsfolk watched in horror as John's form contorted and twisted, his body engulfed by the malevolent energy that had possessed him. Eliza continued her incantations, her voice unwavering in the face of the darkness that threatened to consume them all. In an instant, the curse that had bound Dakshin for centuries was shattered. Malachi's spirit was banished from the town, and a sense of peace descended upon the forest. The malevolent forces that had haunted Dakshin for generations were no more. But the victory came at a heavy price. John had sacrificed himself to save the town, his body and soul forever bound to the darkness that had consumed him. Dakshin, though freed from its curse, would forever bear the scars of its haunted past. As the dawn broke, the townsfolk gathered around the stone altar, their faces etched with sorrow and gratitude. John's sacrifice had saved Dakshin from the malevolent forces that had plagued it for centuries, but it had come at a great cost. Dakshin, with its dark history and haunted past, remained a town shrouded in mystery and whispers of the supernatural. It was a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred, where ancient curses and malevolent spirits could lay dormant for generations, waiting for the next unwitting soul to cross their path. As the years passed, the tale of John's sacrifice and the haunting of Dakshin became a legend, a cautionary tale told in hushed tones to those who dared to venture into the forgotten town. And as the mist rolled in from the hills and the forest whispered its secrets, the residents of Dakshin knew that they must forever remain vigilant, for the darkness that had once gripped their town could one day return.